everyone. Welcome to Hermes Speaks. It's Emily with Emily T Astrology, and I am your host for your Astro Check-In, where we explore the current quality of time. And we listen to Hermes Mercury, our messenger god of astrology. We listen to Hermes speak through the written word and bibliomancy, through story and conversation. Well, how is everyone doing? As I record this, we are right in the middle of eclipse season, and I have to say that life has been lifing. Things have felt very hard in my personal life, but here I am. How are you all doing? Are you faring eclipse season all right? Let me know. Drop in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. So, speaking of eclipses, what we are covering today, we are looking at the final eclipse in Pisces that's taking place on August 27th or 28th, depending on your time zone. And it is the last eclipse in this sign after the last 2 years. We started having Pisces eclipses in September of 2024, and it's the culmination of a 2-year eclipse cycle in the sign of Pisces. But this is also the last, almost the very, very last big astrological transit that is taking place in the sign of Pisces after 5+ years of a lot of activation, a lot of big transits that have taken place in this sign, in this sector, in this specific house in your chart. So we're going to take a look at the last 5 years of big transits that have taken place in the sign of Pisces. And we're going to look at this eclipse culminating here, completing this series of eclipses, and the last 5 years. So this is really a moment of conclusion, culmination, and completion in our Pisces sector of our charts. And to personalize it for you, I'm going to offer horoscopes for all signs, just brief house topic reminder horoscopes, and listen to the oracle speak through a bibliomancy pull for each sign, a little oracular insight. So that is what we have in store today. Before we break it all down, please like, subscribe, click the notification bell, share this with your friends. And, if you, like me, have been going through it and would care for a little extra support, come see me. This is my jam. I love meeting with clients one-on-one. So if you are looking for some astrological guidance, you can go to emilytotomer.com, book a reading with me. I'd love to connect with you. So let's get into the particulars of this eclipse, as I always like to do at the top of the show. This is taking place on August 27th or the 28th. It's the 27th here for me on the west coast of California at 4 degrees and 54 minutes of Pisces, nearly 5 degrees. Of course, opposed to the sun in Virgo at the same degrees. Let's back up a bit and talk about what has been happening in the sign of Pisces that is culminating with this eclipse, the final eclipse in this series. Well, first and foremost, this is the third Pisces eclipse since September of 2024. All of them have been lunar eclipses or full moon eclipses. We had one in September of 24 at 25 degrees of Pisces, and then another full moon lunar eclipse in September of 2025 at 15 degrees of Pisces, and now this is our final full moon eclipse at nearly 5 degrees of Pisces. So we are seeing the culmination of a 2-year cycle of eclipses in this sign. Something really interesting to note about this series of eclipses along this axis, the Virgo and Pisces axis in particular, is that it has been predominantly lunar or full moon eclipses. We have had only one solar eclipse on this axis in the last 2 years, and that was a south node solar new moon eclipse at 29 degrees of Virgo in September of 2025. All of the other eclipses that we have had in the last 2 years on this axis in Virgo or Pisces have been full moon lunar eclipses. One of my very first teachers, Bronwyn Simon, used to say that the solar eclipses tend to be external or mundane or life circumstance events that occur that then need to be processed and internalized. The outside incites the transformation and the change, whereas the lunar eclipses, the full moon eclipses, often show up as internal transitions, emotions that are taking place, ideas that are shifting that then need to move outward through their process. And then the outward movement of these shifts internally then begin to change your external circumstances. So I find that lens very interesting to look at this series of eclipses in particular that have been taking place across this axis, Virgo and Pisces, over the last 2 years, that they have been predominantly process-oriented, internal transitions, emotional transitions, idea transitions that are within us that then are needing to slowly move outward. Not only that, but both of these signs, Virgo and Pisces, across this axis are feminine signs or nocturnal or yin, which in general are process oriented, are more receptive, whereas the external action oriented signs are the masculine or yang or diurnal signs. So over these last 2 years, with these predominantly lunar eclipses on this axis, in particular with Pisces only having lunar eclipses, only having those full moon eclipses, 3 of them over the last 2 years, culminating with this one here that's coming up. This feels like a very process-oriented, receptive, internal transformation that has been slow, that has been felt. This is a water sign, Pisces. So we have been feeling, processing, emoting, shifting very deeply within the Pisces sector of our chart over the last 2 years. And let's back up even further and let's just look at the sign of Pisces. As I already said, it's a water sign and a nocturnal or feminine sign, and it's also a mutable sign. So it is inherently already adaptable, changeable, fluid, flexible. It kind of rolls and moves. There's a little bit of chaotic, dispersive quality already to the sign of Pisces. It is the very last sign in the zodiac, and so it inherently has a feeling of culmination, of finality, of ebbing, of disintegration back into the universal whole, to be reborn with Aries at the spring equinox when the zodiac starts all over. So we have in these last couple of years, with process-oriented, internal, emotional, mutable, roiling, feeling eclipses in this sign of culmination already, just naturally from its placement in the zodiac. We've been having a lot of the sense of endings, ebbings, dissolving. It's been very emotional and very process oriented. And that is culminating in a sense with this full moon lunar eclipse that's taking place on the 27th, 28th of August. So we have this 2-year process that's coming to conclusion. But not only that, as I said at the top of the show, the last 5 years, we have seen a ton of important astrological transits and events taking place within the sign of Pisces. So let me break those particulars down for you. Starting way back in May of 2021, Jupiter, the ruler of Pisces, moved into Pisces. It only spent a couple of months there for its first stint, moving back into Aquarius in July of 2021. But by December of 2021, it moves back into Pisces. It is there through the middle of May in 2022. Then it has, by that time, moved forward into Aries, and then turns retrograde. It moves back into Pisces for its final stint, Jupiter, in October of 2022 through December 20th, so around the solstice of 2022. So this first major transit that's taking place in this sign. Now, for our purposes here today, I'm really looking at the traditional 7 planets in the last 5 years, what the traditional 7 planets, Moon, Sun, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn, what they have been doing in this sign of Pisces for the last 5 years. So the first thing, in 3 different stints between May of 21 through December 20th of 2022, Jupiter is in this sign, working its expansive, unifying, cohesive magic in the sign. Shortly after Jupiter moves out on December 20th of 2022, on March 7th of 2023, Saturn moves into this sign. Saturn spends 2.5 to 3 years in every sign, and so it moved in March of 23, and it stayed there all the way until May 24th of 2025, when it moved into Aries for the first time. It spent a few months in Aries and then moved back through retrograde motion into Pisces on September 1st of 2025, spent the fall still in Pisces in those final degrees, and doesn't fully move out into Aries until February 13th of 2026. Saturn moves into Aries for good. Meanwhile, while Saturn is having its stint in this sign, in the winter and spring of 2025, we have a Venus retrograde and a Mercury retrograde, both of which started in Aries. Both Mercury and Venus turned retrograde in Aries, but they both back up into Pisces. And while there's a whole massive pileup in April of 2025, we have Venus, Mercury, the South Node, and Saturn all within very close degrees of each other. That's taking place in April of 2025. Then we see finally Saturn leaves the sign of Pisces by February of 2026. But then what happens? We see another Mercury retrograde in the sign of Pisces just this winter, spring again. Mercury stations retrograde on February 28th of 2026 and doesn't move forward again in direct motion into Aries until April 14th of 2026. Then meanwhile, while all of that is happening, in January of 2025, the north node of the moon moves into Pisces, where it spends the next 18 months not moving through its retrograde motion into Aquarius until July 26th, 2026. So, to break it all down one last time for you, in 2021 and 2022, we have Jupiter's transit through the sign of Pisces. In 23 through 2025, and then again for the very first part of 2026, we have Saturn's transit through Pisces. In January 2025, we have the North Node move into Pisces. In the winter, spring of 2025, we have a Mercury and a Venus retrograde moving into Pisces. And then in March, we have another Mercury retrograde, March 2026, another Mercury retrograde in the sign of Pisces. And the North Node exits the sign of Pisces for good on July 26th, 2026. So this is 5+ years from May of 2021 through July of 2026, and then now culminating with this final Pisces eclipse of some pretty massive, important transits through this sign. And with everything that I've already said about the sign of Pisces, its culminating nature, its process-oriented, yin, feminine, nocturnal nature, its watery, emotional, feeling-based nature, we have been like kind of roiling, ebbing, experiencing with all of these planets in this sign for the last 5 years. So if you know your chart, and don't worry, I'm going to break it down for you sign by sign in just a few minutes here, but if you know your chart, think about the last 5 years and this sector, the Pisces sector of your chart. Has there been movement? Has there been contraction? Has there been growth? Has there been shift in your relationship to something? Have you been reprocessing ideas? Like, what has been happening for you for the last 5 years in the Pisces sector of your chart? This moment here is a pretty significant culmination with the final eclipse in Pisces taking place now. Just as an important, full disclosure, we do have in February of 2027, one more Mercury retrograde that begins in the sign of Pisces, and then Mercury will retrograde back into Aquarius. So this is not the final, of anything happening in Pisces. That Mercury retrograde does happen in February of 27, beginning in Pisces and moving back into Aquarius. Interestingly, that Mercury retrograde happens during our next eclipse season, when we have our next Aquarius eclipse and our final eclipse on this axis, the final Virgo eclipse that will take place in February of 2027. So there is a tiny, one more little blip of Pisces energy that will take place in February of 2027. But the bulk of this last 5+ years is culminating, is coming to completion, and then will begin to ebb and flow away like a wave, a wave being pulled back from the shore in our Pisces sector of our charts. Let's get into your horoscopes. I am just going to be giving you house topic reminders, and then I'm going to pull a Bibliomancy pull for each sign. The book that I'm going to draw each of your Bibliomancy pulls from, it's called The Dreamer by Pam Muñoz Ryan and Peter Sis. It is a novel loosely based on some of the events in Pablo Neruda's life as a child. And I'll just read really quickly the back for you, and you'll probably be able to tell why I chose this for our Pisces culminations. Neftali, the main character. Neftali is a dreamer. He loves words and stories, collecting treasures, and listening to the rain. He wants to write and to help people who can't speak for themselves, but Neftali's father ridicules his dreams and has his own plans for Neftali's future. With a bravery he never knew he had, Neftali sets out on an inspiring journey of self-discovery that will transform his life and ultimately the world. It just felt really apt for Pisces, the dream and the listening to the rain. It just really jumped out at me. So that said, let's get into your horoscopes. If you are an Aries, then this culmination, this final Pisces eclipse, this completion of a 2, 3, 4, 5 year period of time is taking place in your 12th house. This is the place of the subconscious, of our unconscious patterning, of where we need to retreat, withdraw, and isolate ourselves. This is the house that is falling away from the first house. And so the first house being the house of self, and this being a house of retreat and subconscious, there's something to do with kind of ego death and ego loss and the retreat of the ego and the identity in the 12th house. This sometimes is a place of loss or suffering, or the ways in which we are undermined. Either we undermine ourselves through our blind spots, through our unconscious patterns, or maybe from unseen actors that we can't identify are undermining us. So these are your house topic reminders for the 12th house. So Aries, think about the last 2 years, the last 5 years. Do any of these house topic themes come up for you? And for our Bibliomancy pull for Aries from the Dreamer, it is this. At the Imperial River, they transferred to a paddle wheel boat. Neftali and Larita huddled on a wooden bench between Mamadoi and father. Neftali could not see much except the cushion of fog around them. But as the hours passed and the dawn approached, the fog thinned to mist. The mist lifted above them, and the world opened up. That sounds like the 12th house to me. Maybe there has been some aspect of your life, Aries, for the last good bit of time that has felt confusing and foggy and like you are on a riverboat, but you can't see your destination clearly. You can't tell how much time has passed. You can't really tell where you are. And what I'm getting from this is that after this eclipse, when it ebbs away, maybe, after the next few weeks, some aspect of whatever has felt confusing or foggy or has maybe been keeping you withdrawn or isolated from your community, your friends, your family, some aspect of your life is going to clear up. The sun is going to come out, the mist is going to fall away, and the world is going to open up. So this Aries actually feels very hopeful to me. Love that for you. If you are a Taurus, then this culmination, this completion of the last 2 years of eclipses in the sign of Pisces, the last 5+ years of all of these significant astrological transits in the sign of Pisces, is taking place in your 11th house. The 11th house is the place of groups, communities, benefactors, networks, friends, and allies. It is also where we have our highest hopes and dreams and wishes for the future. So think, Taurus, what has been going on for the last 2 years, the last 3, 4, 5 years for you within these topics, these house topics, communities, networks, professional or social, friends, and the dreams that you've been holding on to, the like deeply held dreams and desires of your heart. What's been happening for you over the last couple of years? Does there feel like any of these themes have been coming up? Your Bibliomancy pull, Taurus, from the Dreamer is this. First of all, it's a chapter called Love. As he walked home from school near the river, Naphtali scribbled in his notebook. He paused every few steps, glancing up to avoid the scattered laundry of autumn leaves on the bank. "Hey, Shinbone, wait up!" Naphtali stopped and turned to see Guillermo following him. He had spent the last several years avoiding the bully. What did he want? Okay, so for Tauruses, thinking about the 11th house of communities and friends and networks, the last several years, have you been avoiding a bully? Have you maybe been a bully? I don't know. That's what I'm hearing here, is that it's time to confront whatever has been going on for the last several years in your communities, your networks, maybe in your own dreams for the future, that there's been something that has been not right. There's been something that's been pressuring you, that's been bullying you, or conversely, that maybe you've been in this position where you have been feeling like you've been needing to pressure and kind of bully and make things happen. And it's time to stop and confront and say, what do you want? What do you really want? And what do I want? It's time to turn and look at whatever this is in your communities, in your networks, amongst your friend groups, in your own dreams for the future, and confront and just say, tell me what you want. And then you get to decide if they deserve that thing or not. But the confrontation feels nigh. It feels important at this time with the culmination of the last several years of Pisces activations in your chart. If you are a Gemini, then this culmination, completion of the last 2 years of eclipses in the Pisces sign and sector of your chart, of the last 5+ years of all of the important astrological transits that have been taking place in Pisces, is happening in your 10th house. This is the place of career, vocation, calling, of public visibility, public life, reputation. What themes along these house topics, career, work in the world, how you're known and seen, what calls you in a public, visible way, your reputation, perhaps, or the reputation of a boss, maybe something like that in the workplace. What's been happening for the last 2 years, the last 3, 4, 5 years in this sector of your chart, the career, right? This is a big one because it's an angular place. It's the very most visible place in your chart, is the 10th house. And for you, Gemini, your Bibliomancy pull from the Dreamer is this. It's a chapter. I opened to a chapter called Forest, and this is what I read. "Those are weeds, Naphtali," said Rodolfo, "not flowers. Now come. If you make me late for school again, I will tell father, and today I do not feel like running." Naphtali stopped picking the tiny blossoms that made the spring air smell peppery. He stuffed the ones he'd collected into his pocket and hurried toward Rodolfo. This one is a little, it feels a little subtle to me. But what I am getting from this is that maybe there has been somebody in your professional life, in your career, in your reputation, in your calling that has been telling you the things that you feel called to, the things that are drawing you, the things that are exciting you, that make the air smell pleasant to you. Someone's been telling you those are weeds. Those aren't the things that you need to be focusing your attention on. And this moment, this culmination in this 10th house for you over the last 2 years, what are the things that the world outside looks at and says, those are weeds, but to you are precious? How can you then quietly, maybe calmly, collect them and hold on to them and make use of them in your life, in your career, in your professional work, and let go of the outside expectation or the outside perception of them? I think that this is saying whatever process you've been going through, maybe in your career, in your work, maybe in the way that you show up in the world, that it's time to kind of like tune out the external perception and hold on to the flowers of your heart that then you can use to make something of in your career, in your work, in your calling. The perception of others around you is not what you need to focus on right now. You need to let it go. You need to let go the idea of others thinking that you're focused on the weeds when you know that these are flowers that are exciting your heart, that make your experience of walking through life pleasant. That's what I'm getting for our Geminis with this eclipse and this culmination here, that hold the flowers of your heart close to you. You can make use of them. If you are a Cancer, then this culmination of the last 2 years of eclipses in Pisces, the last 5 years of major astrological transits in Pisces is taking place in your 9th house. The 9th house is a place of our guiding life principles, our truth with a capital T, higher education, higher mind. This is a place of long distance travel of the mind, or literally, this is the place of our gurus, our mentors, those experiences that we have that take us out of our familiar comfort zone and help to shape our worldview, our guiding life principles. So what, for you Cancers, have you been experiencing over the last 2 years, the last 3, 4, 5 years in these house topics, in your belief systems, your ideologies, your principles, your values, your worldview? What has been taking place that's been processing, that's been roiling for you over the last few years in these topics of the 9th house? And if you are a Cancer, your Bibliomancy pull from the Dreamer is this. By the time they left the cottage, the sun had disappeared. As they walked home, Neftali held hands with Mamadre and Larita. It was dark when they finally reached the edge of the yard. Father's shadowy figure moved in the light of a window. Neftali froze and his voice trembled. Father will be upset, and it is all my fault. Okay, Cancers. Maybe the last couple of years, the last, up to 5 years, you have been sitting, resting, taking your time, processing what you believe, what your worldview is, what guides you, what your principles are. And it's taking time. It's been a process. And maybe you have been feeling pressure from an external source, from an external party. Maybe there's been something going on with a family member or a community member who has been pressuring you to hurry up, and figure out what you think and what you believe. And you have maybe been pressuring yourself. Maybe you feel guilt around, like, I'm late. What is taking me so long to figure out who I am and what I believe? During this time, Cancers, you also had a pretty nasty Mars retrograde in your first house during these last 5 years, right? What I'm getting from this reading is that the pressure that you have been feeling, perhaps to figure out what you believe, maybe it's mostly coming actually from yourself, even though we think it's maybe coming from somewhere else. Maybe you just need to let yourself off the hook with that. It's not your fault. You're not a bad person for needing to take time. And, quite frankly, aren't we always discovering who we are? Aren't we always changing and evolving what we believe? I hope so, right? Maybe it's all immutable, but you don't need to come to the decision of what you believe. So stop pressuring yourself to hurry up and figure out what you believe about the world. That's what I'm getting for our Cancers. If you are a Leo, then this 2-year eclipse story culmination in Pisces, the up to 5-year series of important astrological transits taking place in Pisces has been occurring in your 8th house. The 8th house is our place of shared resources, so debts, inheritances, the expectations that others have on you and that you have on others, the ways that we're enmeshed and entangled. This can be literal, financial ways that we're enmeshed with others, or emotional, energetic, time, those expectations. This is the place also sometimes of anxieties or fears, and sometimes it is the place of the release of attachments to the ways that we are connected and enmeshed with other people. So think about, Leos, over the last 2 years, the last 3, 4, 5 years, what has been taking place within these topics, this house of your life, the ways that you're connected with others, the ways that you owe people, what they owe you, how have you taken out loans? Have you had credit card debt paid off? All of this stuff, what's been taking place within these themes over the last, 2 to 5 years. And if you are a Leo, then your Bibliomancy pull from the Dreamer is a poem. Actually, that's what I opened to. I am poetry, surrounding the dreamer, ever present. I capture the spirit, enslave the reluctant pen, and become the breath of the writer's only road. I really love the picture here. You can see there's a pen with wings, and it's like a fountain pen with wings, and there's on the wings is a road with a lone figure walking. So for Leos, in relationship to the 8th house that we've been talking about, this long process that's been happening over the last 2 to 5 years in your 8th house, whatever has been taking place, the ways that you are connected to other people, it's time to incorporate that, to incorporate your experiences, and to move forward to tell your own story. There's definitely something solitary in this image to me. The story needs to be told. The story needs to be written. The ways that you are connected and enmeshed, those things that people have given you, that you owe to them, it's time to disconnect yourself from them, to take the experience and to move forward and write your own story, to allow the release of the attachment of others' expectations, and maybe the expectations that you have had on others, the ways that you have maybe been resentful. This is what's coming up right now. The ways that you have been resentful of others because of how either they have not fulfilled what you expected of them, or the resentment that you have had on you from others because of expectations that they had that you didn't fulfill. It's time to let that go. This is the culmination. This final Pisces eclipse is saying let that go, and let the experiences and all of those feelings fuel your telling of your story. You're moving along on the path. Let it inform your way forward. But stop sitting within that. Stop sitting within that resentment. That's what I'm getting. Move forward. let your experiences become the breath on the rider's only road. If you are a Virgo, then this 2-year culmination, completion of the Pisces eclipses, and this up to 5-year period of time of important astrological transits taking place in Pisces is occurring in your 7th house. This is the place of primary one-on-one relationships. So spouses, romantic partners, business partners, clients, if you work on a one-on-one basis. This is the mirror, right? So sometimes things that are happening in the 7th house mirror back to us things that we need to see about ourselves. This is the place of the other. So over the last couple of years, what's been going on for you, Virgo, with your partnerships, with your relationships, with the ways that you see yourself reflected back to you by those primary people in your lives? What's been going on for a partner over the last several years? Think about those house topics and those themes and what's been happening over the last 2 to 5 years there. If you are that Virgo, then your Bibliomancy pull from the Dreamer is this. Naphtali still held the bundle. Each letter had been opened from the top of the envelope, the flaps still sealed with wax and stamped with the impression of a heart. On the top letter, someone had written the word love above the seal. Mamadre took the bundle from him, put it back inside, and carefully closed the trunk. Naphtali, the lid could have fallen on your head or your hands, and for what? Some old letters and cards from relatives we do not even know? Promise me, you will never open this trunk. Naphtali looked wistfully toward it. I promise. Uncle Orlando strummed the guitar. Naphtali, come, stand next to me. As my partner, how do you think we should proceed? Naphtali looked up. With a song? My sentiments exactly, he said. Okay, Virgo, have you been, with all of this Pisces activation over the last several years, have you been overly sentimental or nostalgic about something in the past? Have you been clinging to, or has a partner of yours been clinging to something that was dear to them, to their heart, to your heart? Have you been trying to move forward, but always looking back? What I'm getting from this is, maybe it's time to stop looking backwards. It's time to maybe look forward and come up with a new song, a new story. And that can be hard because, nostalgia is such an evocative and compelling emotion, especially when this very Piscean, when we look at it with rose-colored glasses, that nostalgia, that sentimental quality. Maybe it's a way that you have looked at your partner, you've kind of remembered who they used to be, and you've stopped trying to see them for who they are now, or vice versa, right? So what I'm getting from this for our Virgos is that maybe it's time to close the lid on the past, no matter how beautiful it was, that it's time now to find a new song to sing within your partnerships, within your relationships. It's time to see them for who they are now. It's time to see yourself for who you are now, and to come together and sing a new song. If you are a Libra, then this 2-year Pisces eclipse story completion and this, 3, 4, 5-year Pisces activation of major astrological transits is taking place in your 6th house. This is a place of self-sacrifice, of effort, work, and toil. This is a place of the daily habits. And this is also the place of pets, so keep that in mind too. This is where we perhaps have challenges or misfortunes that arise through which we need to persevere, through which we need to continue to chop the wood and carry the water to move towards the pursuit of our security, our material goods and happiness. This is where we sometimes have illness or sickness, particularly the acute kind or the temporary kind in the 6th house. So what has been happening for you, Libras, over the last 2 years, the last up to 5 years, with regard to these topics, these themes, your health, your daily work, your efforts, the ways that you are in service to others, the people who are in service to you, that's potential with this place too, what's been happening with pets, any of these themes. So look over the last bit of time for these house topics for you. And Libras, your bibliomancy pull from the dreamer is this. As their shoulders touched, the riverboat was no longer earthbound. With only the two of them aboard, it lifted into the sky, navigating a sea of white billows. The boy was the figurehead beneath the bowsprit, eyes searching for the way. Naphtali was the paddle wheel, moving them forward as one ancient spirit. Naphtali blinked to hold back his tears. Okay, so what I'm hearing in this is that whatever effort you have been doing over the last 2 years, last 3, 4, 5 years, whatever ways that you have been the paddle, working the paddle in your 6th house, giving of yourself, sacrificing of yourself, whatever process has been going on, that now it's going to bear fruit. Now, all of that work, all of that effort in the river, paddling through the river of life, right? Now maybe you have an angelic companion and you get to leave the earth, right? Now the skies and the vistas are opening up in front of you. So just very simply, what I'm getting from this is that maybe the last several years of effort is going to pay off. Wow, that's hopeful. I like that for our Libras. If you are a Scorpio, then this 2-year Pisces eclipse story is culminating, and the, up to 5 years of important astrological transits that have taken place in the sign of Pisces. This is happening for you in your 5th house. The 5th house is a place of romance, play, and pleasure, the joy of your heart. This is also the house of children. This is the place of our heart center and the joy that emanates from us when we are feeling purposeful, when we are living in a way that is aligned with our sense of dharma. So think about that, Scorpio. What's been happening for you over the last 5 years in romance? What's been happening to you if you happen to be a parent with a child? What's been going on for your child? What process, what kind of roiling process, emotional process has been taking place over the last 2 years, 3, 4, 5 years within these house topics of the 5th house of pleasure, play, romance, children, joy, all of that. And your bibliomancy pull, Scorpio, from the dreamer is this. Naphtali's heart matched the pounding of his feet as he hurtled down the dirt street. When he turned the corner to the main road, he saw the ball of fire rising into the night. It seemed the entire town was already in front of the building, some people shouting directions to those who were trying to put out the fire, others with their hands over their mouths in disbelief, and those trying to keep people back from the danger. Okay, Scorpio, what I am getting from this is that maybe there's been a process of something that's been taking place in your 5th house, place of joy, what brings you joy, of creativity and self-expression and pleasure and play, maybe for a child if you're a parent. There's been a process that has been ongoing, or maybe there's been the destruction of something that you have long loved, the destruction of your own sense of pleasure. Maybe there's been the destruction of the ways that you have expressed yourself or experienced love and romance that has been threatening. And now it's time for it to come down. Now it's time for it to burn down, whatever that is. And it's time. It's time for that to happen. And the idea of trying to fight it, what I'm getting from this reading is that The idea of trying to fight it, the trying to put the fire out, it's probably not going to work. I don't know. Maybe this is too negative, but this is really what I'm getting. This was coming up for me right now. The important part now is to keep yourself and the people that you can and that you love away from the danger of the fire, and to allow whatever it is to continue to burn and to let it go. And that, as is so often said, right, the phoenix that rises from the ashes, if it's time for something to die and to burn, let it, because something more beautiful can grow and come up in its place. So that's for our Scorpios. If you are a Sagittarius, then this 2-year Pisces series of eclipses is culminating, and the up to 5-year important astrological transits taking place in the sign of Pisces. This is happening in your 4th house. This is the place of home, roots, family, foundation, the private life, who you are behind closed doors. This is how we are rooted and grounded in life in ways that are unseen, that are private. This can also have to do with parents or family. So think back, Sagittarius, is what's been taking place over the last 2 years, 3, 4, 5 years within these topics, within these themes of family, home, property, the ways that you feel grounded and rooted, the person you are behind closed doors, what's been happening over the last few years for you. And your Bibliomancy pull, Sagittarius, from the Dreamer is this. Naphtali did not say a word. He wrapped himself in a blanket and trudged toward the summer house. Naphtali, called Mamadre. He did not answer. Before he was out of earshot, he heard father say, "Let him go. As long as he is home before sundown, he will be fine. Tramping the dunes will toughen him. Something needs to put muscles on his bones." Naphtali glanced back. Father stood with his arms crossed. Mamadre confronted Larita. Naphtali turned and continued walking away from them. With each step, his thoughts screamed louder. Wasn't he fine, just the way he was? How would the daily terror in the ocean make him stronger? What made father so cruel, and why did Mamadre do nothing to stop him? Was she just a servant to father's whims? Were they all at his mercy? Naphtali stormed up the dunes. Something deep and fierce was growing inside him. Where had that feeling come from? Had the ocean fed it to him? This whole book is about the relationship of this dreamy, poetic, romantic boy and his father. And it's interesting that I opened for the 4th house of parents and family and roots for our Sagittariuses. I opened to a page that's very much about the pressure that this boy Naphtali feels from his father to be a man, to gain muscles, to toughen up. And in this passage, he says, he feels something deep and fierce growing inside him. And had the ocean fed him that? And here we are looking at, for Sagittarius, is this 2, 3, 4, 5-year culmination, this like completion that's taking place in the place of our roots, our foundation, our parents, our family, our private life. And the ocean, Pisces, maybe has been feeding you over these years, these recent years, the strength and the will to stand up to a parent, perhaps, to stand up and say, I am solid in my foundation. I'm solid in who I am. There's a fierceness there. And I don't need to make myself other than who I am. I am grounded. I am rooted in who I am, and that is enough. And so maybe for our Sagittariuses, this is the time to let go of the idea that you aren't enough, and that you are grounded, you are rooted, and whoever you are is enough. Whoever you are has root and foundation. And if it means that a relationship with a parent or a family member or somebody you consider like to be home for you is challenged in this, that's okay. Because this process over these last years with the Piscean activation in your 4th house is saying you are enough, who you are, and you can be fierce and solid about that. If you are a Capricorn, then this 2-year Pisces eclipse story is culminating, and the last 5 years of important astrological transits through the sign of Pisces is taking place in your 3rd house. The 3rd house is a place where we find siblings and neighbors or extended family. It's also the place of communication, of the mind, the beginner's mind. It is the water in the fishbowl of our life. It is our local environment. It is the places that we go kind of on the daily, regularly. This is a house that speaks to how we are developing our minds, our skills, the ways that we speak, the ways that we communicate. So for our Capricorns, what's been happening over the last 2, 3, 4, 5 years in the way that you communicate? Has there been something going on for a sibling or with a sibling? Have you developed a podcast? Have you decided to write a book? Any of these things. Think about these house topics over the last 2 to 5 years and see like what comes up for you, what's been happening in this sector of your life. And Capricorns, your Bibliomancy pull from the Dreamer comes from a chapter entitled Wind. Naphtali awoke to Rodolfo singing scales. Usually he loved Rodolfo's voice, but not this morning. Father thought singing was a disruption. If Father was upset, he could easily withdraw a permission he had already granted. Would he still let Naphtali go to school today? What are you afraid of, Capricorn? What do you want to pursue? Like in this passage, Naphtali wants to go to school. He's a child. He wants to go to elementary school. Has there been something holding you back from pursuing something that you want to learn? Has there been something holding you back from pursuing a way that you want to move into a new style of communication, a new way of communicating? Has there been something that has been glimmering on the edges of your desire in the ways that you want to seek out information, in the ways that you want to connect with your local environment? Have you been feeling held back? Have you been feeling afraid that something was going to be reneged or taken away from you that you have been putting your idea towards? I think what I'm getting for our Capricorns specifically in this passage, it's the father, the boy's father, who is holding him back from what he wants to do, from going to school, from learning, very 3rd house topic. But I'm wondering, Capricorns, part of these transits that we've been talking about was Saturn, Father Time, the taskmaster, just spent nearly 3 years in this sector, in this house, in Pisces, in your chart, in the 3rd house. Saturn is your chart ruler. Saturn is the ruler of Capricorn, your 1st house. And I'm wondering if maybe you have been holding yourself back out of fear. You have been hearing yourself say why something's not a good idea. And maybe it's time for you to quiet that internal negative voice. If there's something you want to learn, go learn it. If there's something you want to say, go say it. You've been processing doubt around the ways that you communicate, the ways that you speak, the things that you want to pursue, the things you want to learn. Don't let your own internal taskmaster daddy voice tell you can't do something. You can. Especially if it's only yourself who's your own worst enemy. Just stop listening to that part of yourself. If you are an Aquarius, then this 2-year Pisces eclipse culmination and the 5-year activation of several important transits through the sign of Pisces is happening in your 2nd house. This is the place of resources, all things resources. So food, energy, time, money, possessions, anything like that, skills that you have been developing over the last few years. This is the place of all things that resource you as an individual. So think Aquarius back 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. What along these house topic themes has been roiling for you, has been coming up? What's going on with your finances, with your money? What's going on with your skill level? Have you been developing something? Think about these things if you are an Aquarius. And your Bibliomancy pull from the Dreamer is this. Neftali, you should hide this. I do not think Father will like the editor's presumption. Neftali sighed. I'm running out of hiding places. When you go to the university, then you can do as you please. I wish that were entirely true, he said, but I will still have to be secretive about my writing. At least I will be disguised as a student of the French language to become a teacher or a translator. He lowered his voice to imitate Father's. To pave the way into the business world. Okay, Aquarius, what I hear here is maybe there's a skill that you have been developing. There's something that you have been doing that you have been hoping to earn some income from, that you want to earn some income from, that you're getting a lot of like criticism about. Like, why are you hoping to make money as a writer instead of going into business, right? Maybe there's been some desire of your heart that of how you want to resource yourself, the skills that you have, the desires that you have, that you would like to pursue, and that you're hoping will bring resources in to you, and you've been getting criticized about that. Maybe it's time to stop hiding. You're running out of hiding places. Maybe it's time to, whatever those skills are that you have been downgrading, underrating, or other people outside of you have been telling you are like not worth anything, or that it's not where you should be putting your focus. Like, stop hiding it. You're good at this thing. Maybe you can make some money at doing it. So do it. If you have to, you can, wrap it in a bow that changes its its title somehow, or you can spin it so that it can at least lend itself towards whoever outside of you is putting the pressure on you to be doing something a certain way, to be earning your money a certain way. Stop hiding what you're good at. Stop hiding how you resource yourself. I don't know, that's what I'm getting. If you are a Pisces, then this 2-year Pisces eclipse culmination and the last 5 years of significant astrological transits taking place in the sign of Pisces is in your first house. So this is the place of self, of character development, of body and appearance, of your health, your psyche, your personality. This is all things having to do with you. So Pisces, think back over the last 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. What has been happening with your own identity, with your body, with your health, with who you are becoming, your character? How have you been developing as an individual? Think about these house topics, these house themes over the last 2 to 5 years. This is a big moment for you, Pisces, a big moment of culmination and completion. That's been a long time coming and a long process happening there. And Pisces, your Bibliomancy pull from the Dreamer is this. Instead of eating the quince, he placed it among his collections. He did not care that it would soon dry and wither. Blanca had touched it. He picked up the heart-shaped stone and moved it next to the quince. Maybe this reminder of her kindness would give Neftali the same confidence to one day pass his heart to her in return. Okay, Pisces, so over the last 2 years, 5 years, there's been so much happening astrologically in your first house. And you've been processing it. You've been going through it. You've had Saturn there kind of making you feel doubtful and melancholic, right? You had Jupiter there for a while in the very beginning of this series of years, making you feel kind of dreamy and like you could be larger than life. I think maybe what I'm getting from this in particular is that Pisces, you tend to be really compassionate and giving and loving. And maybe it's time to recognize the compassion that others have extended towards you as well. I think over the last few years, maybe it's been easy for Pisces to be melancholic, depressed, doubtful. We've been roiling and processing But if we stop and find the good in others, if we find the compassion, if we find the things of beauty, we can be reminded of the well of compassion and beauty in all of us. And then we can be reminded of the well of compassion and beauty in ourselves. And we can extend that outward. We can have the confidence to say, what I have been developing over the last 5 years, the last 2 years, what I've been processing of my own self, of my own heart, of my own psyche and character, it is worth sharing with the world. It is worth giving to another or to others. In just the same way as if I really seek to see, I have been receiving it. Maybe this is just saying, Pisces, you are worthy of love. And you're worthy of expressing who you are and giving that love out to others also. So I think that's it. I think we got through all 12 signs. I hope that you got something out of this. I hope that this was interesting to you. Please let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Hang in there, everybody. This eclipse season, life has felt hard for me. I won't lie. And if it's been that way for you too, hang in there. You're not alone. This too shall pass. And I guess the overall feeling that I get from this book is whatever beauty is in your heart, it's worthy. Whatever Piscean, oceanic, inspired, imaginative, dreamy, musical, artistic thing that has been happening for all of us over the last 2 to 5 years. It's worthy of being seen and expressed and written down. Your story is one that is worthy of being told. Yeah, I don't know. Take care, everyone. I'll see you soon. Bye.